Hey everybody, welcome back to the Football Fandemic. Matthew is off sabbatical now. I just saw him this past weekend, but unable to make the podcast. So it'll be me and Brandon as usual for the past 3 months. I'm talking about Packers, talk about Commanders, talk about anything that happened in the draft, the surprise moves, get into all of that in a minute on the Football Fandemic. So welcome back everybody to the Football Fandemic. Anybody who is watching, the draft happened last weekend actually. It's a lot of surprise picks, a lot of expected picks. We're going to review all of that. We'll start with some breaking news around the NFL that happened within the last week. So, first off, it was rumored before the draft, officially happened after the draft, but Ezekiel Elliott signs back with the Cowboys. I don't know where else he would have gone besides the Cowboys now that he was a free agent, not getting any traction. So, it wasn't really a surprise for me. I know, Brendan, you live in not in Dallas, but you live in Texas. So, there's a lot of Cowboys fans surrounding you. So, of course, first, what do you think about this move? But what do the people surrounding you in Texas think about this move?
Well, I haven't heard too much news on Ezekiel Elliott here in Texas. I do know the the folks down here, ride or die Colt Cowboys. So when he was cut, they're like, we don't need him. And now that he's back, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy he's back. It's just being bandwagon fans as usual. I think I like this overall. I know he had a short stint up on the East Coast, and now Derrick Henry's up in New England. But
No, he's not. Derrick Henry's in
Der-
Baltimore.
Baltimore, that's right. Different city, same region. Um, I like the Zeke signing back to Dallas.
I think it's good. I mean, Dak and him have had chemistry for the last 5 years, except for last year. So having that back for both of them might benefit honestly both of their statistical years and the team in general, because you still got CeeDee Lamb, who also had chemistry with both of them whenever Zeke was there. But this is honestly a very good signing for the Cowboys, because if Cowboys roster, if you look at the roster before the running back room before they signed him, I mean, there is not a running back that I can seriously consider being a starting level running back in the league. I mean, you got Snoop Connor, no idea who that is. Malik Davis, no idea who that is. Rico Dowdle, no idea who that is. Royce Freeman, he's a solid running back too. Definitely not a top starter in the league. Not saying Ezekiel Elliott is either anymore. He's past his prime, but he's still a quality running back. And then Deuce Vaughn, who was drafted last year, who I think can make an impact, but it just matters how much he'll be used in that system with Royce Freeman and Ezekiel Elliott now that they're both there. So the running back room was abysmal before Zeke got there. So I really do like the signing, but it's not going to fix all their problems.
Yeah. All
Next,
right. On other news, we have Travis Kelce signing a 2-year extension in Kansas City, keeping him there for another 2 years, where we'll see what happens. Are they going to do 2 back-to-back Super Bowls? We'll find out.
I mean, yeah, just like Zeke. I mean, Travis Kelce's way better than Zeke. But what I'm saying, like, keeping that chemistry there, although Zeke left, keeping that chemistry there with not only Andy Reid and Travis Kelce, which although they had problems in the Super Bowl, it's not going to affect their careers or their next season. Basically, they'll get over it.
Yeah.
And Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce is number one receiver, because we all know the Chiefs do not have quality receivers at all. I mean, they have good guys, but they don't have wide receiver ones on their team since Tyreek Hill left. So having that wide receiver 1+1+1 with, I guess, technically with Travis Kelce, because he can play every single position and play it at elite level, is very beneficial for not only the Chiefs team in general, but for Patrick Mahomes and their next run of the Super Bowl.
Yep. We have another wide receiver signing. We have Michael Gallup going to Vegas, lining up on the other side of the field from Davante Adams. I think this will look really good. Michael Gallup has never been a wide receiver 1. He's always been a really solid number 2. And Davante Adams is a really solid number 1. Mm-hmm. And so I like the signing that Vegas did here.
I do too. It gives O'Connell or Minshew, whoever starts, I'd imagine it'll be Minshew, just because they signed him for a reason. I don't think on some teams he's a backup quarterback, but on the Raiders I don't think he's a backup quarterback. But it gives a lot of pressure, because now that Renfrow is gone, they cut him, or they will be cutting him with the post June 1st designation because of cap hit stuff. But even then, they have Mike Mayers, I believe, tight end, and then Brock Bowers, who they just drafted. And then you pair those two with Davante Adams, who all three of these guys, Gallup, Mayers, and Bowers, are easily going to take off that heavy load of pressure off Adams, and might honestly make this offense a lot more dynamic than it was last year. And you might see something different in the Raiders organization with that. I'm not saying he's great. I'm not saying Michael Gallup's going to do all that, but it does help in certain ways. And speaking of Devontae Adams, I don't know if you saw, but I don't know if he was on a podcast or just an interview, but he was talking about how he never, what was it? He was like, he loves Jordan Love, but he felt like he needed a new change of scenery, or he never wanted to leave, but it just happened or something like that. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I did see that. It was on Max Crosby's podcast, I think.
Maybe.
The gentleman I thought should have been defensive player of the year.
Mhm.
But anyway, beside that point, he did come out and he said, yeah, Jordan Love's balling right now. I think it would be a lot of fun to play with him, but he's happy where he is in Vegas and he doesn't regret the decision to leave the Packers. And I'm fine with that. I think Devontae is fitting in very well. Obviously, I would love to have him still, but that doesn't, not every owner gets their way 100% of the time. And hopefully our last talk about receivers for a little bit, we have who Matthew and I find is the most overrated receiver in the NFL.
I agree.
Signed with the Dolphins, Odell Beckham Jr.
He's clearly going to be a wide receiver 3. I think they drafted somebody, but he may even be wide receiver 4 at that point. Let me see Dolphins roster. But obviously it's just might even be because they signed, they drafted Malik Washington and Tajay Washington also. Both late round picks. I don't see them making an impact. They might even be cut, but even saying that just makes Odell a wide receiver 3. He's not going to make much of an impact, in my opinion. I mean, he's past his prime, and even like you said, I completely agree with you and Matthew, where he had 1, maybe 2 good years. I mean, he had that 20. He's famous for that catch, but he had 3 good years from 2014 to 2017 or 2016, and after that, it was just he's never been the same, and he's going to be always remembered for that catch, but even then, it's like that catch is not going to make you the best player of all time. It's just because he's been good at some points, but he's been not that great for the last 5 years, I'd say. So very serviceable player, but not going to make an impact like Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle is on that team.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So now into the fun stuff, the stuff we've all been waiting to talk about this whole week since the draft started. NFL draft stuff, NFL draft review, NFL surprises, our draft analysis from our team, and very, 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 very early offensive rookie of the year and defensive rookie of the year picks. So overall, I think the draft was very, very, it was very good. I mean, there were some surprise picks in there, which we'll talk about, but I mean, I feel like a lot of players went where they were kind of expected to go, and they were a lot of players that went to play teams that are easily going to make an instant impact on that team. So players like Rome Duze and Caleb Williams to the Bears, I really think that could be a dynamic duo, honestly, quad. I don't know if you call it a 4-person team with him, DJ Moore, and Keenan Allen. I think that's going to be great for that team, honestly. And mine honestly put them over that. I know you don't like to hear this, but mine honestly put them over that hump to, they went like 8-9 or 7-10 last year, and
yeah, 7-10.
They come in with a new offensive coordinator from Seattle, who not the best, but he's a lot better than what was his name from the Packers before? Not Nathaniel.
But don't put his name with us. Don't put his name with us.
He's the new Raiders. Adam Getsy. He's a lot better than Adam Getsy.
Luke Getsy.
Luke Getsy. Yeah, Luke Getsy. There's going to be a lot less screenplays, a lot more down the field action. And I think this is about to be a Bears team that you're going to see do very well and compete for once and for a final time. Or not for a final time. They're going to finally compete in the NFC North.
Yes, for a final time. Yes.
I wouldn't say for final time, but yeah, I think they're going to compete in the NFC North, honestly. I mean, they have a defense and they have weapons finally and if Caleb Williams is what he was in college, they finally have a quarterback to, put that over the hump.
Yeah, and I'm going to, also add to that if he is what he was in college, he will not put them over the hump. College quarterback play is very different than NFL quarterback play. The game's a lot faster. Everyone thought Justin Fields was going to do the exact same thing. Everyone thought Justin Fields was going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. Justin Fields no longer plays for the Chicago Bears. I do want to do a quick exercise. I was talking to Josh before the podcast started. We really are not going to know the results of this draft until about 3 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
I just want to go back to the draft 3 years ago, 2021, and let's go through, these first 5 picks. I'll read them off.
Okay.
And Josh, I want you to tell me because remember, all of these players were day one starters.
Mm-hmm.
All of these players were going to make an immediate impact. And if you were a quarterback, you're supposed to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. So I want you to tell me if they're going to be a Hall of Fame trajectory.
All right, let's do top 10, and then let's go over our first 3 or 4 our team's first 3 or 4 draft picks, because rounds 5 through 7, maybe late round 4th are like the guys are like back reserve role players and stuff like that. So first, top 10, and then our team.
Pick 1 overall, Trevor Lawrence.
I can see he's made a very good impact for the Jaguars. I'm not going to say he's like I'm trying to think of a Joe Burrow or an Andrew Luck where he immediately made that impact. He's had some ups and downs, but I see him as a solid starting quarterback in the league.
The thing about Trevor Lawrence coming into the NFL is he had never lost a regular season game.
That is true, and he did.
And so everyone was like, oh my gosh, we're going to win the Super Bowl. And guess what? Have they even made the playoffs? They've been on borderline playoffs. But obviously, the pre-draft analysis is Lawrence is a good decision maker and a natural leader who has shown ability to star in clutch situations in big games. He has a strong arm and quick release. His footwork is a little inconsistent, but his touch, timing, and anticipation are still good. He extends plays with his feet and is a threat on the run.
I can agree with that, honestly, because there have been, I don't know if you saw, there was some sort of post or something on social media where it was like talking about, hopefully I can find it while I'm talking, but it was like NFL players draft or scouting grades or whatever. And there was one about Aaron Rodgers. There was one about Aaron Donald. I believe Aaron Donald. Here it is. Maybe this might be it. Here, yep, this is the one I found. Only the one on Aaron Rodgers. I'll just mention it. The meaning that scouts are never right. They're never wrong. They're there to give their opinion. So whatever a scout says, maybe they say that next Hall of Fame legend. It doesn't mean it's going to happen, but it's not going to mean he's not going to be. He's going to be terrible in the league. So AFC scout said, there's an NFC and an AFC scout. The AFC scout said he's a system quarterback. This is for the 2005 draft for Aaron Rodgers. He's a system, panics under pressure, gets flustered easy. I don't think there's a single quarterback in the draft worthy of a first-round pick. I'm dead serious. None of them are worth it. And then the NFC scout says he fits right into the Cal system. He probably executed that as well as anybody. He doesn't have a strong arm as strong of an arm as Buller, Kyle Buller, former Ravens quarterback, first-round pick in 2003, but can make the same reads and play well and play the scheme as well as Buller did. I'm guessing Buller went to Cal as well. So that's what they said about Rodgers. I mean, obviously, none of that is accurate at all, except maybe what the guy said about how he, he worked well with Cal in that system. But otherwise, the AFC guy is completely off. I wouldn't say Alex Smith. I mean, besides Jason Campbell wasn't worthy of a first-round pick coming from a Commanders fan. Alex Smith, I mean, he rejuvenated his career late. I'd say that's a first-round pick worthy if he started out like that. But Alex Smith went through 4 offensive coordinators in his first 4 years. And Aaron Rodgers got to sit behind one of the best quarterbacks of all time. So overall, I'd say this guy's completely wrong, whereas there was 2 first-round quarterbacks worthy of that draft, and one of them is about to be a future Hall of Fame quarterback. And I've never seen Aaron Rodgers panic under pressure whenever he's been in his prime. And I've never seen him get flustered easy, this guy's completely wrong is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I find a lot of value, obviously, as a Packers owner, of developing players. Long-term value is much developed, and we'll get into that with the quarterback that was taken in the first round this year. But let's go through the next pick. Immediate impact or no? Second overall pick, New York Jets take Zach Wilson.
No. I mean, he's already been traded.
He's not on the team. All right. Third overall pick. This was labeled as the smartest quarterback in the draft. And Trevor Lawrence, that pick was wasted. Zach Wilson, that pick was wasted.
Trevor Lawrence,
Trey Lance at third.
I get what you're saying.
Because Trey Lance is the best quarterback in the draft.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. See, this is where I'm not gonna say bust, and I'm gonna hear me out on this one because there have been so many quarterbacks that are put into situations that are not, for example, RG3 to Washington. They mismanaged his injury. They mismanaged him overall. David Carr to the Texans in 2002 when they first became a franchise. They had nobody. Just these two, for example, there's many more, but those two guys in general, it was either lack of team, surrounding team chemistry, or lack of team surrounding him for David Carr, or mismanagement with RG3. Where if let's say RG3 went to Indiana instead of Andrew Luck, RG3 might still be in the league and might still be doing well. I'm not saying as an escape artist quarterback like he was creating RPO, because everybody would call none of that. Colin Kaepernick was doing the same thing. But if he could have done something like Michael Vick did and rejuvenated a career as a pocket passer with the Eagles like Michael Vick did, RG3 might still be in the league. So for Trey Lance never, ever fit the 49ers system. So I have no idea. Everybody said it was Mac Jones, and I completely agree with that wholeheartedly. I have no idea why they drafted him. So I really feel that if Trey Lance went to Jacksonville or New York or Chicago, which we'll talk about in a minute, we might as well go to pick 11 on this one. I really feel he might have.
Let's not jump to.
He might have done better. But Trey Lance was just a failure from the start because he was put into a wrong organization at the wrong time.
Well, you also got to put into perspective is the 49ers organization can fit anything. It is all adjusted to each individual player to make the best decisions possible, which is why Brock Purdy gets a bunch of crap and doesn't get recognition, which is why Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't getting recognition.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was put under the greatest offensive mind in the NFL and couldn't succeed. That's the way I view it.
I view it because
is he better than Dak?
No.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. I don't view
Dak
Dak.
On him, though, is what I'm saying. People gave up on Josh Rosen. Remember, he was drafted like first overall or something like that. Yep. It probably wasn't. And then it's like, this is our guy. He had one bad year, and they drafted Kyler Murray because they had the chance instead of drafting capital. I'm not saying that's the wrong move, because Kyler Murray's outside of injuries done very solid. But people give up on quarterbacks so quick once. Even fans. As a fan, I've done this with, Sam Howell at sometimes, or whoever else many string quarterbacks we've had. But they give up on him so quick, and they start like saying, he's in this, he's in the wrong situation. He's doing wrong or whatever. Like, can you imagine what people would have said if social media was a thing when Peyton Manning in 1998 threw the league lead in interceptions and still holds the record for interceptions by a rookie? They would have wanted him out imagine they did, but social media would have went crazy wanting him out by year one, and then he leads them to 12-4 or better for 9 straight seasons or something like that from 2002 to 2009 and 2 Super Bowl appearances. So what I'm saying is it takes time to develop, and I believe Trey Lance never really got that time to develop, and I understand that because Kyle Shanahan, any head coach in general, is in that win now mode. So if they see a quarterback that's better, they take it. But Trey Lance, I'm just saying, has never got the chance to develop. Josh Rosen never got the chance to develop. And it's just what happens in the NFL because everybody's focused on winning, which is not a problem. But that's just all I have to say, honestly.
Also, I do think it's a problem, right? Because you're just putting all of this pressure on a kid to go out. Okay, you need to win us a Super Bowl.
Exactly.
And the odds of a rookie quarterback winning the Super Bowl in today's NFL, I don't think we've had it.
No. I think the youngest is Tom Brady, and he didn't even start that full season. He came in for Drew Bledsoe after the injury, and he just rode the highs, basically.
Yeah, or Nick Foles.
Yeah, I think he was.
Nick Foles was pretty young as well, but most of that season was Carson Wentz. It was not Nick Foles.
Even then, if Carson Wentz played that season, that would have been his second year, so it wouldn't have been his rookie, but it would have been very young. So even saying that Nick Foles drafted in 2012, all that season is accredited, in my opinion, to Carson Wentz, because I don't believe that Nick Foles could have brought them to like a 13-3 record, even if Carson Wentz wasn't there. I still think that's all Carson Wentz, and Nick Foles was just in the right place at the right time, honestly.
Yeah. Bringing people in and allowing them to compete is what you need. And we're being told that, but what's happening is you're bringing them in, you're telling them they're going to compete, but they already have the job.
Yeah.
And so you need to have either an environment where they're learning and developing or an environment where they're truly competing. Mm-hmm. You can't have this thing of, okay, we'll bring you in, and then we're going to start you after 4 games.
Yeah.
It's not going to work. Let's go through these next picks pretty quick. Kyle Pitts, great rookie season,
Been
pretty
up and
decent
down.
second season, and then and fell off a little bit this
I can
past
see him
year.
making an impact, though. I mean, Arthur Smith has a big impact on that.
Yeah,
So I
he-
can see
he was a good
Morris,
pick.
Kirk Cousins, and now that they have Drake London back, or not back, but Drake London and Darnell Mooney, they have more receivers. I think he's a great pick still, and he's going to do better this year.
Pick 5, Jamar Chase. I
Immediate
still think
impact.
that was a good thing. Jalen Waddle.
Immediate impact.
I don't know if it was. I mean, he was decent to start. He has definitely found more of a stride and has developed into a much better player than his rookie year, and that's the sort of thing that I'm talking about. Is just give these guys time to develop. Penei Sewell, I think he just signed a pretty big extension.
He's one of the top tackles in the league. Immediate impact.
He is very good. J.C. Horn, iffy.
He's up and down. I mean,
but it's a hard position to play.
It is, and when you're the only solid cornerback on that team, then that makes it even harder because you're the guy that is relied on by everybody, especially by a bad team. I mean, he had 7 passes defended in 2022, and he's only played not even a full season. He played 3 games in 2021, 4 games last year, and 13 in 2022, which was of course his best year. But it seems when he's healthy, he's really making an impact on this team. And they picked up his 5th-year option a week ago. And so if he can perform and play a full season like he played in 2022 or close to that, I can see him being a solid corner in the league.
I agree. Pat Surtain, good.
Great.
That was well used. Devontae Smith, I go up and down. He's not a wide receiver 1. AJ Brown is the clear wide receiver 1, but he's fast and he's efficient, and if you utilize him well, he is really good. Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to go one more pick here because I laugh at this pick all the time. Justin Fields to the Chicago Bears at pick number 11 in 2021. Obviously, the big news this offseason with the Bears was Justin Fields was traded for a 6th-round pick to the Pittsburgh Steelers, where now he's being considered for kick and punt returns. Mm-hmm. That's not Hall of Fame quarterback worthy right there. So just, as an example, not every 1st-round pick, and we just looked at the top 11 picks, are going to be greatest their rookie year. Mm-hmm. It's going to take them time. There's going to be up and downs. There's going to be partial injuries, full season injuries. I'll go down. The next tackle that was taken off the board at pick 17 was Alex Leatherwood out of Alabama to the Raiders. Not a Raider anymore.
Not even a player. I mean, well, not even on a team, I don't believe.
Yeah. Let's go, Travis Etienne, the 25th overall pick. Solid, but an injury risk. And he didn't even play his rookie season due to injury. Packers, Eric Stokes, same deal. When he's on the field, he's not bad, but he has so many injuries, the Packers just declined his 5th-year option. He's going to have to make or break this season to get a contract. Mm-hmm. And then, pick 19, the Commanders took Jamin Davis.
So I mean, I can say as I go through our next couple, we'll go through our 2nd and 3rd-round picks as well. And then maybe any gems we found in the late rounds and see how they, planned out. But for me, Jamin Davis was, in my opinion, honestly, never the right guy for the 1st round. See, you have, what's his name? Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah from the draft of the Browns in round 52. That's the guy I wanted back then. We have a podcast, although not video, it is audio, saying that I wanted this guy. And I was very upset with how Ron Rivera drafted Jamin Davis over this guy of JOK, because simply put, from what I remember, not the decision factor, but a very heavy influence on why Ron Rivera drafted him or Davis over JOK was because Davis was born into a military family, had that military background, and was disciplined. I'm not saying Jamin Davis is a bad player. He's a solid player. He's not a top tier linebacker. And I will say, we just declined his 5th-year option, which I don't disagree with because he's been average, sometimes good, not JOK worthy of a player. But if I'm wanting to see before I say, if I want him off the team or maybe sign a 2-year extension or whatever in free agency next year, I want to see him with the new offense or new coach, new defensive coordinator, whatever. Because his whole career, he's had Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio and a couple other position coaches or whatever. Those guys are so incompetent that no player can develop under them. And so I am very interested to see how Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr., our new defensive coordinator, head coach, take Jamin Davis and of course the rest of the team, but more so because we're talking about Jamin Davis, under their belt as very solid defensive coordinator / defensive play callers, and see what they can do to develop Jamin Davis into a solid player this year. And if it works out, then maybe you sign him to an extension. If not, you sign another guy, because we made some solid moves in free agency. We made some solid moves in the draft, and I wouldn't lose my mind if we lost him, because he's been there sometimes, but he's been missing sometimes. So it's always up and down, and there's never been a consistency with him. Before we get into the Packers, moving on to round 2 and 3, and then maybe one gem we found in the late round. Our Commanders in round 2 took Sam Cosmi at tackle. He's moved to guard, and I consider him a very mainstay position in our offensive line. He's the guy that we're going to be building our offensive line around of. I wholeheartedly feel that, and he performed so well last year, and with a terrible offensive line, everybody around him was so bad. You can easily tell he shined so great. And with a new head coach, new regime, I can only imagine him getting better. So I'm very excited and very, very happy we took Sam Cosmi, because without him, I do not know where our offensive line would be, if anywhere. We'd have no foundation to build around of. And then so glad this guy is some sort of foundation we can build around for the next years to come. Our 2 third-round picks in 2021, Ben St. Juice. Like Jamin Davis, up and down, but he can play sometimes he can play bad. So once again, I'm excited to see what our new defensive coordinator, new defensive coaches can do with him, because, like I said earlier, they had Jack Del Rio and Ron Rivera calling plays for them. That is not going to lead to success at all. And then our next guy, Dyami Brown, with our receiving room now, and who we just drafted, which we'll get into in a minute, I do not see this guy on the team. And honestly, I'm not saying a 3rd-round pick is something you should consider a starter, but this is for me, this is the last round where you get quality starters or quality guys who can fit in, and Dyami Brown has never, ever, ever done that for this team. So I'm really excited. I wouldn't say excited, but I wouldn't care if he left the team, basically, is what I'm saying. The last guy I'll mention, 5th-round pick in that same draft, Derek Forrest, came out of nowhere in 2022, I believe, maybe last year, actually. But now that Cameron Curl is gone, who I believe we drafted or undrafted in that same round, this guy's our starting safeties, free or strong. I'm not sure, depending on where they played Jaquan Martin on where they put him. But this guy is a solid safety for a 5th-round pick. He's not the best, definitely not the worst, but he's a very solid starter, and I'm very happy we picked him up in the 5th round, because he's been a solid player for us on a very average defense for the last 3 years under some incompetent head coaching positions. So moving on to the Packers, we already mentioned who was our 1st-round pick? Sorry. Eric Stokes.
Eric Stokes. 2nd round, we had Josh Myers, who will probably not be with the Packers after the season. And then 3rd round, we had Amari Rogers, who is already no longer a Packer.
Just for reference, anybody who's watching these clips on TikTok or Instagram or Twitter or /X, Brandon has a burning passion of hate for Amari Rogers. So he was cut last year or something like that. So you can imagine that all you have to say is Amari Rogers, and Brandon just starts twitching because it's just he hates him so much.
Well, you have to put this into perspective. Amari Rogers was the number 1 receiver for Trevor Lawrence in college.
True.
So we're like, he's already used to exceptional quarterback play. He was going into a system with Aaron Rodgers, and then had freaking Kadarius Toney hands, and then we would put him in for kick and punt return, and he would fumble everything. True. It's not something you want. I don't think he's currently on a team. He went to Houston for a little bit, and I think he's in the XFL or USFL.
Let me look at him.
Really, I can go through these picks. Royce Newman, not great. To Daryl Sutton, he's done okay. Shamar Jean-Charles, no longer on the team. Cole Van Lanen, no longer on the team. Isaiah McDuffie, who was picked 220, and he was one of our comp picks, is still on the team and contributes in a meaningful way on special teams. And Kylan Hill, running back, no longer on the team. This was not a great draft for the Packers. All right, let's go back to
this year's draft. Yeah.
Yes.
Surprises. Any surprises you saw? I mean, we did our mock draft. Let me actually pull that up if I have it screenshotted somewhere, and we can kind of compare, go down the list and kind of compare where the computer AI got it right, got it wrong. Reminder, this is kind of a we had to do the draft twice because of a glitch in the trade system whenever I wanted to trade for a first round. So,
well, let me start with this. You know, Caleb Williams was taken first overall. The Bears got him. The Bears got that pick from the Panthers. That was a trade effort for DJ Moore. Is where that pick had come from. So they used that to take Caleb Williams, which is fine. Their actual pick was pick 9, where they took Rome Odunze, wide receiver.
Love that.
And they might work out together. They also might realize halfway through training camp they can't work together. and that's that. JJ McCarthy was taken by Minnesota. And I do want to bring up probably the most surprising pick for everyone that I'm not opposed of. Pick number 8, Michael Penix Jr., quarterback out of Washington, is going to just sit behind Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, just same thing Jordan Love did. But But the question is, how long? And there's a video I have to watch. It's like 3 minutes long. I just haven't had time. But there was a pic of like a behind the scenes thing of Raheem Morris and the draft room basically for the Falcons, and kind of going in detail of why they drafted him. I mean, Kirk Cousins, although signed a 4-year deal, is 36 at the end of this year. And so, as much as I like to hate to admit it, because I really feel like a lot of RG3's takes are terrible, I'm going to be honest. He said he's pretty accurate. You know, you draft a guy who is I wouldn't say security blanket, but a very quality starter once he gets a chance. And let's just say Kirk Cousins gets injured. Michael Penix comes in, does amazing. They move on from Kirk Cousins because they have their future. There's so many uncertainties to where Kirk Cousins being 36 years old, it just seems right. And I know people are going to be mad at that pick, you know, even especially Falcons fans. I really wish we had Cody, one of our friends is in our fantasy league, was supposed to come on, but he had plans. Nothing wrong with that. Or, you know, he had emergency plans. But I really wanted to hear his opinion as a Falcons fan about this. But I don't hate the pick as much as a lot of people do, because as RG3 said, if there's an emergency situation where Kirk Cousins tears his ACL again or whatever, and Penix comes in and shines, then you move on from Kirk Cousins and you found your future. And a year from now, if that happens, Falcons fans are going to be praising Raheem Morris, and they're not going to be angry, and they're just going to move on with life. But Penix is going to have a long. If not, Penix is going to have a long waiting situation, and I can't think of at this time. I mean, they're completely different guys, but I can think of maybe 10. I can only think of like 5 or 10 better quarterbacks for a rookie quarterback to sit behind than Kirk Cousins, because he's a very solid quarterback. So this is a very great situation for Penix, in my opinion, and it can only get better for Falcons fans if it works out.
Yeah, in this situation, the only thing Penix has to do is just sit and refine himself, and just keep refining and keep refining and keep refining.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day he's going to go in. And when he goes in, all of that refinement work that he's done is going to shine.
My surprise. So there was a rumor, actually it was a true rumor. There was a rumor at the time, but it was turned out true, that the Giants and I believe the Vikings tried trading up with the Patriots. I almost said Packers. Patriots for pick 3. Now, I imagine the Vikings wanted Drake May. I do not know who the Giants wanted. I imagine they wanted either Marvin Harrison Jr. or Drake May, because both of those trades got denied, obviously, and the Patriots took Drake May. But the Giants took Malik Neighbors. So it's very... I'm leaning towards that they wanted to draft Marvin Harrison Jr. away from the Cardinals, or away from whoever took them, which ended up being the Cardinals. And they were fine with Daniel Jones in the long run, as much as they said they were not. Now, I can easily, based off them drafting JJ McCarthy, I can easily see the Vikings wanting to trade up for Drake May and, go from there. But it never worked out. So that's kind of my surprise as to how that, I guess how that worked out. But overall pick surprise, I mean, it's Bo Nix to the Broncos. I mean, I view this guy as a second round, early mid second round pick, not late, sorry, earlier mid second round player. And obviously, Sean Payton saw something else. And I'm no Sean Payton. Sean Payton's a genius at quarterback coaching, at offensive calling. And so if he saw something he believes in Bo Nix and wanted him that high, then I applaud it, because obviously obviously Zach Wilson is not starting. Bo Nix is the future. And so if it works out, it's great for Broncos fans. If not, then Sean Payton is going to be really, really, really regretting him drafting him that high.
Yeah, and the other quarterback in Denver right now is
Zach Wilson,
a former second-round pick. So we'll see. We'll see how this works out.
I will say I'm also not. I'm kind of surprised about. Can't think of his name. I have to go to second round because he fell to the second round. I'm surprised Keon Coleman, Jerzon Newton, which we'll get into in a minute, Tuber DeJean, Kool-Aid McKinstry, and I think that's it. I think those are the players I'm really surprised fell to the second round, because I viewed those, and a lot of people viewed those as middle to late first round picks.
Well, so remember, there's 50 people that think there's a consensus for first round.
Mm-hmm.
50. There's only 32 picks. So you're going to have people fall down.
Yeah.
Fall down into the second round. All right. Let's take a look at our Homer team reviews of the draft. I'm going to start with the Packers. I'll let Josh finish us with the Commanders.
We can take a collaborative group on the Colts, because Matt, I talked to Matt. We'll talk about it in a minute, but we'll give a collaborative review, and I'll give what Matthew told me Sunday about the Colts as well.
All right. I'll let you give Matthew's report. I don't have anything to say because I didn't pay attention to any of their draft. Round 1, pick 25, Packers take offensive lineman Jordan Morgan. I like this pick. I'm not convinced he's going to be tackle for his career. I think he is going to start out competition against Rasheed Walker, and I think that's just fine. I think he's better fitted as a guard in this Green Bay scheme, and we'll find out if that's left or right guard. Round 2, pick 45, which the Packers traded back with the Saints from pick 41. We took Edgerrin Cooper, linebacker out of Texas A&M. And if anyone watched our previous episode with the mock draft, this is where I took Edgerrin Cooper in our mock draft live. And so I thought there was a lot of qualities I saw in him that worked well in Green Bay. And obviously, when I called Brian Gutekunst to tell him as an owner I wanted this guy, he listened. Round 2, pick 58, Javon Bullard, safety out of Georgia. Packers love their Georgia Bulldog defensive players, man. It's every draft we've had at least one since Eric Stokes for the past 3 years. And Javon Bullard is no exception to that. Mm-hmm. I think he's going to do exceptionally well in Green Bay, lined up on the other side of Xavier McKinney. And he's going to have a good team of people to work with. Round 3, pick 88, Marshawn Lloyd, running back, which is Caleb Williams, running back from college. I think he's going to do pretty well overall. His closest comps were Aaron Jones, which is the kind of thing we're missing. And I think we might just run a 3 running back system between A.J. Dillon, and A.J. Dillon might get transitioned to H-back. I'm not sure yet. Kind of a Kyle Juszczyk role. And then Brock, Josh Jacobs, and Marshawn Lloyd. I'd be fine with that. Tyron Hopper, linebacker, taken the end of our 3rd round. 4th round, pick 111, Evan Williams, safety. 5th round, pick 163, Jacob Monk, offensive line. Will probably play guard. 5th round, pick 169, Kian Oladapo, safety. You can tell that the Packers were going up.
Yeah,
on a lot of these players. Travis Glover, round 6, pick 202. Then here's the pick that excited a lot of people. Round 7, pick 245, Michael Pratt, quarterback. We've got it. We've got our guy. He's there.
Same thing as probably Sean Clifford last year.
If anyone remembers college football, this guy is from Tulane. they played a bowl game against a little team named USC. Caleb Williams, quarterback, and Victor was Michael Pratt. By just a couple of points. So the Packers' new quarterback taken in the 7th round is already better than Caleb Williams. Confirmed. And then 7th round pick 255, Kalen King, quarterback. Overall, the Packers went pretty heavy on defense and then scattered in offensive linemen and a quarterback and a running back that might have some impact. Pretty good draft overall. That defensive adaptability is what we need the most. Our offense can move around pretty well right now. And with Jeff Hafley, I think that's going to happen.
So me and Matthew were talking, of course, Sunday, but we were looking at NFL draft grades, and now that it was over, and all 3 of our teams, Colts, Commanders, and Packers, were either A plus, A minus, or B plus. And so I think the Packers and some of them were either A minus or B plus. What would you personally give the Packers draft grade?
I won't know until 2027.
Okay.
But as of right now, I mean, every team is feeling good about their draft. They're trying to work some angle to make them happy. I'd give it a B plus overall. Mm-hmm. We covered a lot of the needs we had. I can tell that they consulted with the assistant coaches on what would work best for the organization. So we'll find out. And I'm just going to remind Bears fans, the last time the Packers took someone named Jordan in the 1st round, you made fun of him. It did not turn out well for you. And we took someone else named Jordan in the 1st round this time. Don't make fun of him, and it'll turn out just fine for you.
Before we move into the Packers and then the Commanders and then the Colts, you were talking about the Packers. You probably know who this guy is. Nobody else probably knows who this guy is, but Packers are moving quarterback Alex McGough from quarterback to wide receiver.
Yeah, he was our 3rd string quarterback last year. That's where we're getting Michael Pratt put in this year. So it'll be Jordan Love, Sean Clifford, and then Michael Pratt. That'll be just fine. And the Packers are kind of moving back to this model. We used to do this a lot and then just let people develop, and then we would trade them away. Matt Hasselbeck is probably the biggest name from that.
Yep.
Matt Flynn is another big name.
Mark Brunell, Aaron Brooks. Yeah, they're famous for all that stuff. Yeah. Kurt Warner wasn't really traded, but he was cut, moved on.
Well, he was there for like 24 hours.
A couple months, a couple weeks, But the other 3 guys, definitely Mark Brunell, Hasselbeck, even Taysom Hill, honestly, and Aaron Brooks.
Yeah, and so the Packers are just getting back into that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Sean Clifford is a good quarterback, and he can provide value in another organization, maybe named Seattle, where everyone else seems to go. I'm hoping Michael Pratt can do that 3 or 4 years as well.
So before we get into the Commanders, I will say, like I said last week, I fully trust what Adam Pearce and Dan Quinn are doing, and that whole front office and that whole coaching staff are doing, because what they've done in the free agency period, amazing, and what they did in the draft, which I'll get into in a minute. I'll even get into my overall opinion of it first before the picks in general, but did amazing. You had 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and you somehow turn that into 3, where the Eagles, sorry, not the Vikings, the Eagles trade up with you. You swap second-round picks, and then you get a third second-round pick out of that. You still have 2 third-round picks, and you have 2 fifth-round picks and a 7th. You have 1, 2, 3, 6 picks in the top 3 rounds. That's just insanity. From 1, 2, 3 to 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, and that just takes a genius of a mind from Adam Peters to do, especially trading with your rival in the Eagles. Now I understand you might have given up a pick that gave the Eagles Cooper DeJean, but I know the Eagles are in that playoff berth / Super Bowl mode, whereas Adam Peters has stated so many times before where the Commanders are in a rebuild mode, and he clearly saw the value in that by trading back, gaining a cornerback which we'll talk about in a minute, that he thought was worth his pick, and then gaining an extra player in a tight end. So kudos to Adam Peters, because I don't know how he did it, but he made me a very happy Commanders fan over the last weekend. So last week I mentioned in our mock draft I wanted Drake May, and there's not similarities between their play style, Drake May and Jaden Daniels. It's so close for me that I didn't really mind who they picked. The only reason one of the big reasons I picked Jaden or Drake May over Jaden Daniels is because Daniels is 24 or turning 24. And not saying that's old, but that is a little bit above the age of a rookie quarterback for me. And so I wanted somebody more long term. Not saying Jaden Daniels is not long term, but if you're looking at a guy who can stay with you for a franchise till he's 36, that just puts 2 extra years on Drake May compared to 12 years or 2 less years for Jaden Daniels. So overall, very happy with Jaden Daniels as the pick, but the age is a little concerning for me just because of I don't know, but it's just something in my opinion. It's nothing major. Our first out of 3 second-round picks, Josiah Newton or Johnny Newton out of Illinois. Now, I will say again, like I said last week, I don't watch college football. I barely pay attention to it on Twitter or social media or whatever. And I had to ask a couple of Illini fans that I knew from Illinois, and they said this guy is an amazing pick. Even analysis said amazing pick, got the steal of the draft. He was the defensive player of the year for, I don't know if it was for the whole college football or for the conference or whatever, but basically we got a steal in the second round. My only concern with this pick is there was so many other positional needs available that they could have drafted, like Cooper DeJean or Kool-Aid Minstrey or some other people. But for me, I think from what I've read, they just went with the best pick available on the board, and I'm not upset about. I'm not even upset about it, but I am a little uneasy about, I guess, is that you already have Deron Payne and you already have Jonathan Allen. And although Jonathan Allen was a little bit upset last year with the coaching staff and how the team was performing, it might be different with the new regime and a new coaching staff this year. So I fully understand that Josiah Newton is a very talented player, but I just don't know where he fits into that system of playing unless one of these guys moves to end and becomes a rusher, which probably would be Deron Payne, just because Jonathan Allen fits so well into a defensive / nose tackle situation, where I don't see him becoming an immediate starter or be getting a lot of action unless you trade one of those guys. So very great pick, very great player. Very questionable about the scenario he's going into. So that's my second round pick for Josiah Newton evaluation. Our second round pick, Mike Sanristel out of Michigan, cornerback. You just got one of the cornerbacks from the best defense in the college football last year, and of course, we could have drafted Cooper DeJean, but Dan Quinn, Adam Peters saw something else that they wanted, and they got another cornerback to go with Emmanuel Forbes, which I'm hoping didn't have a great season last year. Hoping he can have a bounce back season from whatever Ron Rivera did to him, because it didn't work out. And then you pair him with him and then Benjamin St-Juste, which I talked about a minute ago. I'm not saying you have a solid 3 cornerbacks. We have a cornerback. They're not liabilities, basically. And if the defense can be built around these young guys and Forbes, St-Juste, and Sandstrel, you have a very solid secondary. If they get built up the right way for at least 3 or 4 years, something Commanders fans could be very hopeful to look for the next 3 or 4 years. And our final pick of the second round, Ben Sinnott. Don't know much about this guy. I know it was a very good pick based off analysis. We just released Logan Thomas, so we definitely needed a tight end. And it seems like unless John Bates or I think Cole Turner are better in the coaches aspect of things, he might be our starting tight end. And so it works out. I'm not upset about the pick either, because I know we had a need in tight end. I'm getting into 2 of our third round picks, and I'll just kind of quickly go over the 5th and 7th round picks because I don't know much about them. But our third round pick, Brandon Coleman, guard out of TCU. I expect him to be moved to tackle because they just signed a guard, Nick Allegretti from Kansas City in free agency. And we have Sam Cosmi at guard on the other side. So I very fully expect him to be moved to either right or left tackle. And if we move him to right tackle, we move Sam or Andrew Wiley or pick up another guy and put him at left tackle. But from what I've heard, very solid pickup. Can be played at any position, kind of like Brandon Scherff we drafted about a decade ago. Play at tackle, could play at center, could play at guard. And he's a very solid player. Moving on to Luke McCaffrey, wide receiver out of Rice, son of Ed McCaffrey, brother of Christian McCaffrey. This is a Wes Welker, Julian Edelman type player where he's a slot. I wouldn't say slot, but he's a very reliable underneath guy. There was some stat I can't remember. It's like 8 drops his whole 4 years or whatever at college, or 3 years at college. And this is a guy you need in that third spot. We just lost Curtis Samuel, and if you put him in with Luke McCaffrey, put Luke McCaffrey in that third spot, and the offense gets put into work, I can see him having a very big impact on that team for as an underneath guy and a very solid third option for Jaden Daniels. Our last 3 picks, Jordan Maggie, Javonte Jean-Baptiste, and Dominic Hampton. Analysis have said that Dominic Hampton has been was taken very late, and it is a very good pickup. Should have been picked up in the third round or late second, I believe, is what I heard. And Jordan McGee, don't know much about him, but linebacker is something we needed, and Ron Rivera neglected that for 4 or 5 years. And we see Adam Peters and Dan Quinn come in. They sign Bobby Wagner, they draft Jordan McGee, and they pick up a couple of other guys in free agency on top of these guys, and you're seeing a completely different group of players in that linebacker group. So I'm very excited about that. So overall, I have seen analysts give our draft a plus, or even at the lowest an A. I'm not going to give an A plus because, like Brandon, I'm going to wait the full 4 years because I have some questions with Jerzon Newton, and I am not sure if Jaden Daniels is going to work out. I hope he does. I very much hope he does, as a Commanders fan, and even just in general as a player in Jaden Daniels, an aspect of things. But I'm going to give this an A just because we hit on almost every single need we needed. We hit on a cornerback, we hit on a tight end, we hit on a guard/tackle, we hit on a third receiver, we hit on a linebacker, a depth linebacker, and we hit on a depth safety. Now that Cameron Cole's gone, we hit on every single need we needed in this draft/free agency, and this team's only going to get better. I'm not saying we're a playoff team; it'll take a couple years, but we're on the right path, and I have a full belief in that we're on the right path. So that is my analysis of the Commanders draft. We'll quickly go over the Colts draft. Matthew, I talked to him on Sunday about it. Actually, Saturday and Sunday. Was hoping he'd be here with us because he just got off sabbatical, but I did ask him for a thumbnail photo, and he gave me one of those where it was like a thumbs up. So he liked the draft overall. But what he said was, if I remember right, Adonai Mitchell, very good receiver, could be a solid receiver, wide receiver 2 to Anthony Pittman, or Michael Pittman. Sorry, Anthony Pittman's his dad. Leitu, probably the top edge rusher in the draft. And if you're pairing that with Grover Stewart and DeForest Buckner on the inside, you have a very killer front 7 or front 4 for the Colts. And if he works out, that is something that you're going to be looking forward to for the next 3 or 4 years, because I think they have every single starting member on their defensive line locked up until at least 2026, I believe. So if that works out, you have a very great, and you build your linebackers after releasing Darius Leonard last year, or Shaq Leonard, and you have EJ Speed still, I believe. But if you build your linebackers up, you might be looking at a very strong front 7 for the Colts. I have really no idea who the rest of these guys are. So I'm gonna talk about those 2 guys and leave it at that. But Matthew said that this draft, he's really pleased with this draft. So if Matthew's pleased with it, then I'd imagine a lot of other Colts fans are pleased with it as well.
Yeah, Chris Ballard always does a good job drafting.
I will say
that's
not a surprise. When I did meet with Matthew, he said I saw him Sunday morning, first Sunday back for preaching. He didn't preach, but first Sunday off sabbatical, Chris preached. And so Matthew, I met him in his office, talked about football for a couple minutes, and he was like, he was in the mountains over in Tennessee, I believe, somewhere for his last week sabbatical, and he told me, I saw that clip on social media, probably Twitter, of Brandon Harris talking about how the Colts would draft Thomas Jr. Can't remember his first name, but Thomas Jr. out of LSU, and he goes, "What a midget! We're not drafting Thomas Jr. in the first round. I don't even think we're going to get him at all." And so he's basically saying that Brandon's pick was a bad pick. So, if they drafted Thomas Jr., then Matthew probably wouldn't have liked this draft as much, but they got one of the top edge rushers in the draft, and I can very wholeheartedly say that Matthew is very pleased with this draft.
Yeah. Anything
else you got to say?
I think that's it. I think we should wait for Matthew to come back before this next section.
Yeah, I think our next, we don't know when we'll be back. Free agency and NFL draft is those very big moments of off season where it's like we actually have something to talk about. And even if we have like one big trade, like not going to happen, but Patrick Mahomes gets traded, if that's all we're going to hop on and talk about, we probably won't hop on, and we'll talk about it next time. So I believe the next time we hop on,
I think it might be next week.
Would be the schedule release.
Is projected to be Thursday. It's not an official day yet.
So it'll be sometime next week or very early the week after. So you're looking at, depending on schedule release, if it is truly my May 9th schedule release, you're looking at the 10th or sometime between the 13th and 15th, probably that we get on and talk football late at night. So, if until we next time, something we'd see next time, stay tuned for our next episode and good luck with your teams in the NFL draft because we are very pleased with ours.